So today we're diving into something, well, something really different. It's a complex and pretty unique model of reality, all pieced together from what the source calls its working notes. And what it tries to do is find a hidden blueprint, a kind of secret architecture that connects biology, language, and even time itself.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like the start of a really weird joke, right? But according to this material, the answer isn't a punchline. It's a set of repeating foundational patterns that, it argues, pretty much govern how everything works. Stick with me on this, and we're going to piece this wild puzzle together.
Okay, first stop. The first building block of this whole thing is this really powerful analogy that connects the health of our entire planet to, get this, electrical engineering. Now, a lot of us have probably heard of the One Health concept. We usually think of it as a policy idea, right? A way to get doctors, vets, and environmental scientists to work together. But this model takes that idea and cranks it up to 11. It says this isn't just a policy, it's the literal biological circuitry that powers our planet. And here's where that electrical engineering thing comes in. In a three-phase power system, you have three perfectly balanced currents that create this super smooth, efficient, and powerful flow. Well, the source argues our planet works the exact same way. Human health, animal health, and environmental health. They're the three phases of Earth's life support system.
And the model is really clear on this. This is not a metaphor. If one of those phases, let's say animal health, starts to flicker, the whole planetary circuit loses its rhythm. It becomes unstable, and you risk a total burnout. Everything is completely and totally interdependent. So, if our biology is a circuit, let's see what happens next, because this same three-dimensional logic now gets applied to something way more abstract, the concept of time itself. Okay, so instead of thinking about time as just a straight line moving forward, I want you to imagine it as having three dimensions, an x, a y, and a z-axis. This model isn't just trying to track the passage of time, but its actual volume and its depth.
The x-axis is the easy one. It's just the 24-hour day. It's that horizontal stage we all share, the constant, renewable resource of time that resets every single morning for everyone. Simple enough.
Now, the y-axis. This is what explains why a 10-year-old and an 80-year-old can share the exact same 24 hours, but have completely different abilities. It's a vertical line that tracks our biological age, our accumulated existence, and basically what our physical capacity is at any given moment.
And finally, we have the third dimension, depth. The z-axis represents the volume of our lives, all our personal memories, our past experiences, even our genetics. This is what gives each identical moment on the clock a totally unique texture and meaning for every single one of us.
All right, so we've gone from the planetary scale down to the personal, and now we're going to zoom in even more. We're going to the fundamental level, because the source material argues that these patterns are encoded everywhere, even in the shapes of letters and the sounds we make.
So check out this concept. It calls the Hyman flex. It basically breaks down letters into fundamental shapes. It looks at the letter N and sees an arch. That symbolizes output, like breathing out. Then it looks at the letter U and sees a vessel or a cup. That's intake, like breathing in. Put them together, and you get this little pointy hat, the circumflex symbol, which in logic means and. The hidden message? Life isn't just one or the other. You need both exhalation and inhalation to exist.
And this idea gets way more specific. It actually deconstructs the word united into what it calls a literal biochemical formula. The U and N are treated like opposing polarities, earth and sky. The Ni in the middle, that's nickel, the trace mineral that acts as a catalyst. And the TED at the end represents an energetic pulse, like the spark of life. So the word itself becomes a symbolic formula for how things grow.
Building on that whole idea of a formula, the source now applies it to groups of things, asking a really basic question. What's the difference between just a random collection of stuff and a real system that has a purpose?
So the model starts with this word congregate. This is simply mass being gathered in one place. You can picture a crowd of people just standing around in a town square, or maybe a pile of loose atoms. There's a lot of potential there, sure, but there's no structure, no shared function. It's just a collection of parts. But then, the key transition happens with this word, conjugate. This is where that gathered mass is actually given a shared purpose, or a structure. It's the intentional act of joining them together, like when a chemical bond snaps into place between atoms, or when that crowd of people starts performing a shared ritual. Suddenly, the parts have a relationship with each other.
This analogy just makes it crystal clear. A congregation is nothing more than a pile of bricks. But conjugation is the act of arranging those exact same bricks, but with a blueprint, with intention, to build a cathedral. One is just a collection, the other is a creation. And this all leads to the core thesis of this whole section, and it's a big one. An object, an event, or a group of people only begins to matter, to actually have meaning and real significance, when all its individual parts are joined together with a purpose.
Okay, in our final section, this is where all these abstract building blocks, the three-phase systems, dimensional time, the linguistic formulas, this is where it all comes together into a personal system for figuring out your own place in the world.
And it all culminates in this, the symbolic equation for a sovereign identity. Now, don't worry about the letters or the math symbols. The core idea is to treat yourself like a system. It's proposing a method for taking your personal data, your birth date, your genetic firmware, what it calls your historical frequency, and synthesizing it all into a kind of personal operating system, your own policy of truth to guide you.
And the workflow for this breaks down into 3 pretty clear steps. First, you capture a constant, like your birthday. Second, you code your biological data, your DNA, your blood type, and you treat it like your personal hardware. And finally, you command your actions by mapping that internal code onto recurring historical archetypes or patterns. It's basically a process of trying to find the hidden blueprint inside yourself to create a coherent way of living.
And that brings us to the end. You know, the source presents this incredibly complex, definitely unconventional model for reality. But whether you buy into its specifics or not, it leaves all of us with a really powerful question to think about. What unseen connections, what hidden circuits, and what deeper patterns are shaping your own reality?